So, hi everybody. I'm Mahashri, Product Marketing Specialist at Unstract, and I'm really glad you could make it to this session and join this conversation. So, in this session, I'll be conversing with Shuveb, co-founder and CEO of Unstract. So, I have a couple of questions pre-populated based on our interactions with users of Unstract and also other prospects that we've spoken to. So, I'm sure for anybody who is curious about document extraction, which is LLM driven, and where the industry is heading, and how Unstract especially plays a role in this space, I'm sure it would be useful for you. So hi Shuveb, how are you doing today?
Good, Marshri. Thank you for having me here.
All right. So let's get started with the session. And before I move on into the Q&A segment, I just wanted to quickly go over a few things. So we have over here a few session essentials, which are basically the ground rules that we'd like to follow in this session. So firstly, all attendees will automatically be on mute throughout this entire segment. And you could always post your questions in the Q&A tab at any time during this session, and our team will be able to get back to you with the answers via text. You can also use the chat tab to interact with fellow attendees. This is also where you'd let us know in case you run into any technical difficulties during this session. And finally, once we close this, you'd be redirected to a feedback form that I request you to leave a review on so that we can continue to improve our sessions going forward. So that said, here's introducing Shuveb. So Shuveb is co-founder and CEO of Unstract for over 3 years now. So previously, he was VP Engineering of Platforms Engineering at Freshworks, a NASDAQ-listed global SaaS player. And he's also a serial entrepreneur, his career spanning more than 2 decades. He's co-founded various internet startups and has also had the opportunity of working in startups that deal with petabytes of data and billions of requests every hour. So I'm actually interested in knowing his takes on the questions that we have for him today. Now, before I run into that, I can see that some of you are new to the platform. And I just wanted to quickly take you through what Unstract does and set the tone of this session so that you'd have better context when I pose the questions to Shuveb. So Unstract is an LLM-powered unstructured data ETL platform. So if I were to briefly bucket the capabilities of the platform, I'd have 2 buckets over here. So that is the development phase as well as the deployment phase. So in the development phase is where you would be uploading your documents and also specifying what is the data that you're looking to extract and the schema of the data that you want to be extracted. So this is done in a prompt engineering environment called Prompt Studio. So one of the key capabilities over here is that we would also be deploying a text extractor tool like LLM Whisperer, which is Unstract's in-house text extractor, to basically extract the raw text from your document and also convert it into an LLM consumable format. So once this stage is done, you can get started with defining your prompts and also check how the data is being extracted, whether it is in the format that you're looking for. So once you're happy with the extraction, you can move on to deploy this particular Prompt Studio project. So we currently support 4 major ways of deploying your project. So we have API deployment. So this is when you get your files from, let's say, an application, you would want to process it and send the output data to another application. And similarly, we also have ETL pipeline, where you would get the document from a file system, and then you would have to process it and send it to another database or a data warehouse. And similarly, we also have task pipeline and human-in-the-loop deployments as well. So let me briefly take you to the platform, and I'll quickly take you through how this works so that you'd get better context. So hope you can see my screen now. Is it visible?
Yeah.
All right. So this is the Unstract interface that I have over here. And if you were to sign in for the first time, you would intuitively be guided to set up your connectors, which are basically certain prerequisites that you will require to get started. You'll be required to get started. So this is an LLM-driven platform, and you can connect with various LLMs over here that you can use for data extraction. We also have vector DBs that you'll have to set up, embedding models, as well as text extractors. So this is where you'd also find LLM Whisperer along with other text extractors in the market that you can choose. So once you set up these prerequisites, you can then move on to creating your Prompt Studio projects. So this is where you'd be uploading your documents and also mentioning the data that you want to be extracted. So for the want of time, I would actually be getting into one of the existing projects over here. So what I have over here is a credit card parser project where we've specified a couple of prompts over here to extract key information or data from credit card statements. So you can see that in this particular project, we've uploaded 3 credit card statements. What you see over here is the statement from American Express. And over here in the prompts, we have various prompts. One is extracting the customer name. We're also extracting the customer address, spend line items, as well as the payment information. And you can see how the output is structured. So you would also be giving the description as to how you want the output to be structured. And you have access to various output data types that you can choose from as well. So this is how you can test how your prompts are working for the credit card statements. And just to give you an idea of how this would work across other statements, let me just maybe check out the statement of Bank of America. So you can see here that we have a completely different credit card statement with a different layout, but the prompts are working perfectly well, and we are able to extract the required data as an output as well. So this is how you can upload multiple documents and test your prompts in the Prompt Studio. And more importantly, under raw view, this is basically what the text extractor works on. So it is able to extract the text from the original document and preserve the layout of the original document when it passes this to LLMs, because LLMs are known to consume information very much similar to how humans would. So the best way to send the information from your document would be to preserve the original layout. So this is the context that will later be sent to the LLM based on which these prompts are being executed. So again, there are various features in Prompt Studio, which I will not be getting into in too much detail in this session. So once you basically set up this project, you can export it as a tool and deploy it in any of the 4 deployment options that we've seen. So for instance, if I were to deploy it as an API, I would also get the API endpoint along with a downloadable Postman collection that I can use. So this, I think, folks, sums up what I wanted to show you briefly as to how the platform functions. And let me just go back to my slide. And I think we're ready to get started with the questions. So are we good to go, Shuveb?
Yeah, we are good to go, Mashi.
All right. So the first question I had for you, or the opening question, would be, who is Unstract for? Because you are involved in speaking to various prospects on a daily basis. So who are these people? What are their requirements? And why do they come to us?
Right. So, very interestingly, after large language models became available, and then people figured out that, hey, we can use them to automate various very complex processes that involve humans that previously weren't really automatable using existing technology. So businesses are figuring it out, and then business leaders are reaching out to essentially their engineering teams, and it's almost always that we speak only to 2 personas, right? We either speak to engineering leaders or engineers, or we sometimes speak to product owners who want to automate certain things or certain aspects of their product, right? So these are the two folks that we usually speak to, right? Almost 100% of the time it's split between the two. We very rarely speak to line of business owners or users. It's very rare. Of course, some of them could be highly technical, so they might have some kind of curiosity in figuring out what large language models can essentially do for them. So sometimes they do reach out to us, but then when we make a sale, it's always to the engineering team or the product team, sometimes very rarely.
All right. So the product is also, you can deploy it as a cloud offering, as an on-prem version, and it's also open sourced. So
Yes.
could you let me know a little bit about why the founders decided to open source Unstract?
Of course. So I think number one, much of the founders, the founding team, right? Arun and me, we come from an engineering background. Of course, Rao also comes from an engineering background, right? So, uh, at least for Arun and me, we have like a very strong open source background, right? So we grew up on Linux and technologies like that, and so we have like a very strong affinity to open source. We know like, hey, that pretty much all of the infrastructure today stands on the shoulders of open source. So that's of course that's a good reason, but I'd be lying if I said that there is also not a business decision behind it. Startups by their very nature, right? Imagine the kind of customers we have. The customers that we have are typically enterprise class customers. Of course, we have other startups. We have medium-sized companies, all sorts of companies. There's some element of comfort that people get when they see that software is open source, right? Because there's GitHub stars are kind of a social currency, right? And also we see that, hey, unfortunately, if startups go down, people know that, okay, the open source project can continue. So there's like multiple reasons for that. But also, for other entrepreneurs starting out, open source can also be like a channel for leads, right? So that there are multiple reasons behind it. Yeah.
All right. So you spoke about different kinds of customers as well. So is there any segment that or any particular industry where we see most of our customers coming in from more than other industries?
Oh yeah, totally. So if you take by volume, I would say that about 60 to 70% of the volume we process should be from BFSI, or sometimes also known as banking, financial services, and insurance, right? So typically, these tend to be regulated industries, and in regulated industries, what happens is that you will have to deal with all sorts of documents, and then it's very difficult to automate those processes if not for a solution like Unstract. So that's where we come in and help. But it also I have to say that there are several SaaS companies that use Unstract because sometimes their customers upload documents, and then essentially, otherwise what would have been a very manual process, now they can essentially just call an API, Unstruct API, and then make the UX a lot better. So there's a sea change in the kind of UX that can happen whenever documents are involved while using Unstract. But at the same time, the majority of the volume that we process today is from the so-called BFSI segment companies.
Okay. So the companies that you had mentioned, as you said, are highly regulated industries as well.
Yeah.
So what are the security or privacy concerns that they have? Because they might be processing sensitive data as well. So I know that we have customers ranging from startups to Fortune 500 enterprises. So what are the common security concerns that you see these customers raising?
Well, yeah, sometimes they don't want to send the data to the cloud. That's like a common concern they have. And earlier, when we started, there used to be another concern, which was how can I send my data to a large language model, right? They used to be worried about that. Now we don't see that they worry about it anymore because I think there's some kind of a trust. So LLMs have become yet another cloud service. So it's like a database or like S3 or like some storage. It doesn't matter, right? So they simply send. And I think more recently, all of the cloud providers have made it very clear that if you use their large language model services, they will not train their large language models based on your data, right? So, of course, those enterprise agreements also give, or rather, contracts give customers that comfort level. But it doesn't stop people from, let's say, trying to install large language models, on premise and things like that. There are some extreme cases, but then again, most of them are okay to send, number one, their data to large language models. But when they feel that they absolutely need some sort of data security, they do ask us to give them single tenant installations of Unstract and LLM Whisperer, which can be installed essentially on their cloud, or sometimes called on premise, but it's not really on premise. It's basically on their cloud. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, I mean, earlier in your earlier answer, you'd also hinted about how the UX of Unstract makes it easier to adopt it for data extraction. So, I mean, could you explain why Unstract exists when engineers also have the choice of using other LLM related dev tools, or they could also build this up from scratch within their organizations? So, could you explain if there are any other factors to this?
No, that's a great question. So see, what happens is that there's a lot of frameworks available which allow you to build agents, which allow you to extract data from unstructured documents. But at the same time, it's a call that the customer needs to take. Do I need to essentially deal with all sorts of document types and structuring and prompt engineering? There's so many things that go into making a system that can very with high accuracy and consistency convert unstructured data into structured data, right? Now, when that really needs to happen, would customers want to build more of a vertical solution and solve their business problem, or they want to really get their hands dirty and kind of solve a what I would call a low level problem or platform level problem, right? So that is a question that the customers have to answer. Now, I mean, there are some customers who are really good at this. They don't mind spending the time and energy into building a solution like this, but then again they very quickly realize that it's not as easy, and then it's just a big headache to maintain. But yeah, some folks do it. I have seen that.
All right. Okay. So when it comes to document extraction, of course, accuracy is something
Yeah,
that's very important. And
correct.
how good are LLMs as compared to previous gen tools, or how can LLMs go wrong when it comes to document extraction?
Well, yeah, I mean, they're better for sure compared to OCR technology. LLMs can do a really good job of structuring data and things like that, right? So definitely they can do that. But at the same time, things can go wrong. For example, LLMs can hallucinate, and very, very unfortunately, there is no programmatic way of figuring out if a particular LLM has hallucinated during a particular API call, right? So it becomes super difficult to do it, right? So that's the reason why we have technologies like LLM challenge, where we use two large language models. They have to come to a consensus. Unless they come to a consensus, we do not accept the result of a particular extraction, right? And then you can also have some kind of a rule engine and send it to a human in the loop. So we have all sorts of technologies that allow users to ensure that the results that they're getting from a large language model is really good. So this is another problem, that when people kind of build a solution on their own, this is something that they have to take care of on their own, right? Yeah.
All right. So you mentioned about the human in the loop technology, which is
Yeah.
also a common requirement across industries, in certain industries where it is a requirement that you have
Yeah.
human in the loop. So how can you elaborate a little bit more on it, how we are deploying it
Sure,
in
of course. So human in the loop is, in some places can be required by law. For example, in many countries, in fact, you cannot make insurance decisions purely using AI, right? So you need to have a human in the loop. And sometimes it also happens that you have very bad input. For example, you may have fax copies or doctors' written notes, all that kind of stuff, and then human oversight might actually help there, right? So for that reason, of course, we show the document on the left and the extracted data on the right, but then the document can be very long, right? So verifying whether a particular extracted value is correct or not can be very painful. That's the reason why in the human in the loop technology that we have, whenever you click on a particular extracted value, we will scroll to the right location in the document and also highlight the area from where the LLM actually picked up the data from, right? So what happens is this allows reviewers to very efficiently review, and this is critical, right? So to enable this, we have worked pretty much from the ground up to make sure that this source document highlighting and can happen, so that efficient reviews can happen, right? So this is like multi-pronged problem, right? So I mean, it can be legal requirement. It can be, hey, required because, like I said, a document can be of very bad quality sometimes, and then humans generally have a lot of context around the document, right, for them to figure out, hey, is something really going wrong, things like that. Yeah, so that really helps.
All right. So talking about bad quality documents, one way of handling it is probably with the manual check, the human in the loop. But we also have LLM Whisperer, which I think handles this to a certain extent, where it's able to extract the text and also pre-process it into an LLM consumable format. So do you think it works maybe in a way to fix bad quality input documents? And can you also elaborate more on LLM Whisperer, because we also offer it as a standalone tool, and it's doing pretty well as well.
Right. So LLM Whisperer is a service that can take documents and then provide raw text that can be fed to a large language model. So it's I mean, from a user perspective, there are a lot more users of LLM Whisperer than Unstract, because I mean, there's a lot of other use cases for LLM Whisperer. So people may get text from LLM Whisperer, use it in RAG kind of application. So RAG is very different. That usually some sort of a question answer kind of use cases where the output of the large language model is consumed more by a human being, right? Whereas Unstract's output is more structured data, which you can use to automate use cases downstream, things like that, right? So LLM Whisperer is super important because vision models are still not there as far as accuracy is concerned. So you cannot throw some document at vision models and ask it to give you structured data. In many real world use cases, it will fail. For example, you may also have to deal with documents like Excel sheets and all sorts of TIFF images and very challenging documents like Word documents, and then documents which are handwritten, and documents that have checkboxes, radio buttons, smartphone clicked images, all sorts of complex documents. LLM Whisperer is a modular separate service that solves this problem and solves it really well. We also have this technology called layout preservation, which can look at the layout of the input document and preserve the same layout in the output document. So when you have multi-column layout for, documents and forms that have, again, inherent multi-columns, and then tables and checkboxes, radio buttons, it can deal with all of these things. And then that way, right, we do, as Unstract, we don't have to worry about what sort of input are we getting, for the large language model to process and then convert the data into JSON that the user is asking for, right? So we don't have to absolutely worry about that. And that's also the reason why a lot of engineers use LLM Whisperer for their own custom applications that involve large language models.
Okay, all right. So we've spoken a little bit about Unstract and capabilities within the platform like LLM Challenge, Human in the Loop, and we also now spoke about LLM Whisperer. So I mean, there's an understanding of what the platform provides as a whole. But if someone were to embark on an LLM project for the first time, how should they approach it? What are the pitfalls that they should be wary of, or the best practices for them to run it effectively on the first go?
Right. It's a very important question, because what happens is that when you introduce large language models into your organization, and if that project fails, then essentially, right, I mean, people are not going to trust that they can do automation using large language models, for a long time, or at least for a time until they forget that this failure occurred, right? So it's a good idea to start to get really good balance between a project that can be automated, where essentially you can, let's say, some human is involved, and then it's very difficult to, for example, automate because there's some sort of large document involved. So we can go take a look at, hey, projects that are not very complex, at the same time projects that will have a significant impact on the organization if automated. It's very important to hit this balance, right? Otherwise, what happens is that, hey, you will get, for example, a project that is not very impactful, and then you automate it, then there is no point. Or then you take a very complex project and then it fails straight away, and then people still lose faith in the large language models. So you don't want to have that either, right? So that's why it's very important to find that balance, and then you go from there.
All right. Okay, so what does the future, because right now we are seeing that people are moving into agentic workflows and setting up these kind of workflows in their businesses. So how does this speak in terms of document extraction and Unstract? How do we factor in this entire system?
So what you mean is how we are working. Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah, sure. So what does the future look like for agentic automation when
Oh, right.
we talk about, yeah, Unstracts?
Right. So Unstruct, as you know, is today either an API or a ETL pipeline, right? So essentially what happens is that, hey, we can take documents from some storage and then structure it and then push that structured JSON data into a database, or you call an API, you send a document, and then we send back JSON data. More and more where we are going is into workflows, right? Can we directly read emails? And then can we push the data into some kind of a vertical system, like some CRM that customers already have? So we are with a few customers, we're already working on such use cases where we're building agentic workflows that involve unstructured documents for sure, but then again, it goes well beyond an API or an ETL pipeline. We are basically able to do a lot more portion of the workflow. This is essentially work that the engineers were previously doing. Now it's becoming part of the platform. So essentially, think of these as more agentic workflows. Yeah.
All right. So this, would you say it would democratize the entire process and bring down the dependency that people have on IT teams when it comes to document extraction as well?
I think so. I think so, because today most of the heat is faced by the business teams, and then they have a lot of dependence on the engineering teams, right? And then we do believe that because of how good large language models have become, as far as instruction following is concerned, as far as the ability for them to follow prompts and build workflows is concerned, use tools is concerned. So these capabilities is something that LLMs will be able to leverage, and that's what we want to expose to users for automation as well.
Okay. So as a final, we're coming towards the final set of questions. So where do you see LLMs heading? Because there's again a lot of buzz about MCPs and so on.
Yeah.
So where are LLMs heading when it comes to document extraction, and what does the future roadmap for Unstract look in terms of the capabilities that we're looking to integrate into the platform?
Right. So I think LLMs are becoming better and better, and especially I would like to highlight what is known as instruction following ability. So now the model providers are especially training large language models to follow instructions very closely, and this is important because when it comes to building workflows, when it comes to extracting structured data from very complex documents where a lot of business rules are involved, we are seeing, for example, prompts that are close to 1,000 lines. And out of the 1,000 lines, there could be hundreds of instructions that are given to the large language model in extracting data, in transforming data as the data is extracted, or following certain rules of extraction and things like that, right? So unless these large language models have amazing ability to follow rules, they wouldn't succeed in these particular use cases. So like I mentioned, for example, mainly because large language models are used in coding related use cases, these model providers do train them specifically for the instruction following ability that they have, right? So this I believe will only get better, and as agentic use cases are becoming more and more popular, this ability will actually be, I believe, become better and better, right? And also the cost is falling. If you take a look at the past 18 months, I think even just for OpenAI, the cost of the large language models has fallen by more than 90%. And that is like pretty significant, right? So combining all of this, I do believe that a lot more people will try agentic workflows, data extraction workflows, unstructured data extraction workflows. So I do believe that we will get to see a lot more automation happening in enterprises using large language models.
Okay. So I think that sums up the questions I had for you, Shuveb. Is there anything that you would like to tell us as a closing note before we end the session?
No, well, I mean, we are super excited, and like I said, these models are becoming better and better, and we are taking on more and more challenging tasks that a lot of, even we thought sometimes that we could not automate using large language models. So that is changing, and I think that is exciting, and this can only get better. And I can only imagine how large language models a year from now, 2 years from now, the kind of capabilities they'll have, and we are waiting. I think it's not about cutting jobs or anything, but it's about, hey, how humans can do more interesting work, and then the mundane work can be absolutely cut down, no doubt about that.
All right. Okay, then. So thank you so much for joining today in this conversation. It was really nice talking to you, and hopefully we can connect sometime in the future as well.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
And thank you everybody as well for joining the session. So if you would like to learn more about Unstract and how you can deploy this in your own organization, you can always sign up for a free demo with one of our experts as well. So I'll just ask my team to drop the link in chat, and you can check that out. So yeah, thank you so much, Shuveb.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right then.
Bye.
Have a great day.
Thank you so much, folks.